Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Price. I'm the Events and Marketing Director at the Shingo Institute at Utah State University. I'm excited to have two of my colleagues with us today, Brittany Ogden and Sean Barker, who oversee the assessment process at the Institute. Sean has worked with us for over 20 years. He was part of the team that developed the Shingo model and the challenge guidelines. Brittany has been with the Institute for a little over 6 years in a couple of different roles. She's now the point of contact for anyone interested in challenging for the Shingo Prize. Earlier this month, they wrote an article which was published in our monthly newsletter and on our blog that talked about the benefits of challenging for the Shingo Prize and provided some resources to help you in the process. You can read that article by visiting shingo.org/articles. If you have any questions for Brittany or Sean, you can ask those in the Q&A feature of Zoom. If we don't have time to answer all of them, our team will follow up directly with you afterwards. Brittany and Sean, thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn the time over to you.
We only have 20 minutes today to cover this very detailed process, so we'll only talk about the basics here. If you have not already, we encourage you to download and read the Shingo Prize Challenge guidelines that are available on our website, or you can take this QR code. Everything that we're going to be talking about today is detailed in these guidelines. As I said before, we only have 20 minutes on this webinar, and we expect that you'll have other questions. If you would like to contact me, I can schedule a meeting with Sean and I to talk to you more in detail and answer some more questions that you have. And we will leave 10 minutes at the end of this webinar for a Q&A. I'll now turn the time over to Sean to talk to start with our agenda and talk about some items that the Shingo Institute offers to prepare for to challenge for the Shingo Prize.
Thanks, Brittany, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and thanks, Mary, for the introduction. But thanks for taking a few minutes of your time so that we can explain this process to you and some of the benefits of challenging for the prize. This is kind of where it all begins. A lot of people call us and ask us, well, where do we start? Where do we start learning about the model? And this workshop series is designed with that purpose in mind. So as you can see, we have two workshops that we start with. We start with Discover Excellence and with Systems Design. And those two together begin to show you how the systems in the organization are built to really drive the behaviors that we're talking about. And then we get into some depth workshops. So we need to take those two first, kind of gets the language down. It really helps you understand how we talk about the model, how we look at it, how all those pieces work together. And then we get into the depth workshops, into cultural enablers, continuous improvement, and enterprise alignment. Those go deep into each principle in those dimensions and really talk about, how do we look at ideal behaviors and how do we get key behavioral indicators and those type of things. And then we have Build Excellence, which is a capstone of how all this works together and how we need to look at the model and use it and make it a living piece of everything that we're doing. One of the most important things, and I always tell everyone this when we're teaching workshops, is that the model is designed to help you improve what you currently have. It's not to change everything you have. It's not to do it in that respect. It's to make it stronger. Everything that you currently have. You've done a lot of work in your organizations to get where you're at. We want to make it better. And that's what this model is designed to do. We also have a short workshop. We advise that as many people as you can in your organization, especially at the management leadership level, go through these workshops to really understand how we assess, how we talk about the model, because it's very different from assessments that you might be familiar with. We look at behaviors within the organization and how those are driving the results that you're getting. Because what's most important to us is how you can sustain those results. But you can't get everybody through all this workshop series, and we definitely understand that. So key people, we want to take that. We also have a workshop that is online, and it's designed by our online provider, My Educator, and it's specifically geared toward team members. What are team members going to expect? You know, when managers and supervisors come down with different language that they're talking and describing the model, what does that mean for them? So this is specifically designed for them. It's a very low cost alternative to get team members through, and you can find that and links to that on our website as well. We strongly recommend these workshops. A question that always comes to Brittany and I is, do we have to take the workshops to challenge? The answer is no. Right? We want any organization that feels that they are at this level of performance to be able to challenge. We want organizations to be able to challenge, to learn and benchmark where they are at. But it's very difficult for an organization to understand our process, how we do it, how we look at the behaviors within their organization, and to understand the feedback that they get if they haven't been through this. So to get everybody on a level playing field, this is really the pathway to take to begin looking at the model and begin assessing your own organization. And that's another side benefit of this. We teach you how to look at your organization, how to use our assessment tools, how to use our scoring. All of those things are built into these workshops. So take advantage of those as you get on this journey. And I think you will agree that they're very, very beneficial for you.
Yeah. So Sean, do you want to just cover our books that we sell
Absolutely.
online?
These are companions to each one of the workshops. So we now have these. We didn't have these many years ago, but we now have one publication for each workshop. Build is currently in process. It will be out toward the end of this year to complete the series. But each one of these takes you into what's talked about in the workshop. It accompanies the workshop. It has extra things in it like case studies from many of the editors that have put their experiences in each one of these publications. So we recommend having these to go right along with the workshop. It'll get you more meaning out of that workshop than just the workshop alone. So they're available. You can get a link from our website, but of course they're also available on Amazon.
Fantastic. So Sean's gone over what you can do prior to challenging. And now we'll kind of step into the challenge process. So in the guidelines, if you've looked at those on page 8 and 9, you will find something that looks like this. We call this our process at a glance. We created this as an amazing visual that you can look at to kind of see what's coming up from start to finish. We'll go over each step of this process in this webinar, but like I said, it will not be in very much detail. So if you have other questions, just please reach out to us. That's what we're here for. So our first step is application and eligibility. You can find the application link on our website, and you will submit that application. It will come in with a company profile sheet, an org chart, and your results. From then, when we get it, we will go over that. We will not analyze that. That's for the examining team. We will just look over to make sure that everything's there and kind of go over if there's anything that we can help you to tell your story on that. So we will review that, and then we'll set up an eligibility meeting with you. We will also ask for an official contact person. So if you see that come up, that's the person that I will be in main contact with during the entire challenge. A date of intent will also be asked. This is the date of the intent to submit the achievement report. And the achievement report will come after Insight, and that will begin the APA, which is the achievement packet assessment. So one thing that I want to make sure that everybody's aware of, that all required documents must be submitted before we can review the application. We have to have everything in there. And again, we are just reviewing it. We're not analyzing it right up front. So then we go into Shingo Insight, and Sean will talk more about that.
Thanks, Britt, for that explanation on the packet, and keep in mind that although we will give you guidance and walk you through many of these processes, that's what we're here to do. The actual assessment of the packet comes from the examination team, but there's a lot of things we can do to help before that time comes. Insight is another thing that will be required for a challenger, and like the model, we built the model for all organizations, those that want to challenge or those that don't want to challenge but they want to make their organization better. Same thing is true with Insight. If you want to challenge for the prize, you're going to be taking Insight. If that's not your desire at this point in time, Insight will still help your organization, and you're welcome to use it as a tool to evaluate and benchmark your current status in your organization. Shingo Insight will be covered much heavier by Helen. Helen Zach is our Director of Research, and in this process of challenging, she will get in touch with the organization and cover it in depth, all the questions, what the feedback looks like, all of these types of things Helen will answer. For the sake of a challenge, if you decide that you want to take Insight, or you have taken Insight earlier, we will use anything within a year's time frame. So that's good to use in the challenge process, right? So remember that in the challenge process means it doesn't really start until the examiners get the whole packet, right? But if you have taken it, we're happy to use that within that year time frame to do it. But this is a tremendous tool that can help your organization as it desires to move forward. A question we always get is, does Insight correlate with a on-site assessment? Meaning, if I do really well on Insight, does that mean I'm going to do really well on a site visit? The two are very different instruments, very different tools. An on-site assessment is done by trained examiners with a specific experience with the model and in continuous improvement itself. Insight is taken by people within your organization at all different levels within the organization, trained and untrained, but it's how they see things happening in their organization. So they do not correlate. Nonetheless, it's a great benchmarking tool. It's a great tool for examiners and yourselves to use as you look deep into your organization to look at some of the systems that are driving behaviors within your organization. That's what examiners use it for. That's the same thing you would use it for, is to be able to really pinpoint in the organization where some of these behaviors coming from. How do we change the system to drive a different type of behavior within our organization? So tremendous tool, no matter which way you're looking at it, but keep in mind, it does not correlate. It's not intended to right now, because of the way that it's taken and who's taking it and answering those questions.
Yeah. So after Insight, we go into the achievement report getting submitted. And we do it this way because we want the Insight feedback to go into your achievement report. So I'll turn the time over to Sean to kind of talk more about what you're going to be putting into that achievement report.
Yeah, so that's an important part, Britt, right? Is how do we take some of the things that we see in Insight and address them in our achievement report? Some things may be new to you. Some things you'll already be addressing and taking care of, right? But it's important to be able to include that, because the achievement report tells the examiners, this is what we're doing in our organization. Here are the metrics that we have. Here's what we have achieved through our measures. And here are the systems that are driving those measures and the behaviors that are achieving the measures. That's the intent of the achievement report. How are you getting those? It's great to see that you have fantastic lead times and they've come down. How have you been able to do that? What system has allowed you to do that? How did you build on that? Because you probably didn't go from where you were to where you are today in one jump. It didn't happen that way. It never does, right? We took all of these steps. It's a story that plays out. That's what the achievement report is. It's a story of where you were, where you've come from, and where you're going on this journey. Right now, saying that, this is a 50-page story. That's right. So not many of us can write that whole story easily in 50 pages, right? That's difficult. So what we're really asking is, what are some of the key systems that have made this possible for your organization? Just a little insight into the future. One of the things we're working on right now is changing this achievement report to make it much more prescriptive to specific systems, because there are specific systems that we're looking at and looking for. We're looking for problem solving. We're looking for idea generation. It doesn't matter what you call them within your organization, but it does matter what behaviors they drive, right? And how do we look at each one of those? How have we built them? How do we see them moving in the future? How do we move them to the next step? All of these things are extremely important to examiners, and their ability to look at your organization and say, in fact, this organization is ready for a site visit. We think they'll do well on a site visit. We want to go look at this organization. That's what they're trying to get out of the achievement report. Again, it's 50 pages, but we help organizations that have questions and want to look to that. We do not review your achievement report. We've been asked to do that, but we can't. We don't have the manpower or the time to be able to do that. And unfortunately, we don't have an example of the achievement report. We do have some templates that we provide for you, of course, to be able to talk about these systems and of course, that's what the workshops help with also. How do we talk about them? What language do we use? If we're looking at the scoring and achievement scales, a lot of the language is in there. So all of the workshops help with that. We can help with certain things about formatting and that, but of course we can't review it in that manner. So is there anything I've left out from that, Britt? This is a big part. This is where everything kind of starts.
It is.
For them, so.
I think one thing that I just want to make sure that everybody realizes, in that 50 pages, the results are included in those 50 pages. So it's 50 pages total with the achievement packet and those results inside of that achievement packet. So you do have to take advantage of the space that you do have, because it does seem like a lot until you're writing that and you add those results in the end. So
yeah, I did want to mention one more thing, Britt, that I left out. It's a minimum of 3 years of transformational data. Now everybody goes, what's transformational data? Well, that's from, and this is very difficult for us to determine, right? But a minimum of 3 years means we decided to go on this journey of enterprise excellence and that at this point. And whenever that was, could be 10 years ago, could be 15 years ago, but we need a minimum of 3 years, and we need that reported at least quarterly to be able to see how stable those measures are. So if you have 4 years, great. Put the fourth year in an annual view, and then the 3 years need to be in at least quarterly. Monthly is even better, right? Examiners are trying to understand your story. And the best way they can do this is with measures that they can really see that those measures are getting better and better because of the systems that we've built. We're addressing those problems. All of those things go into that story. So if you have questions on measures in that, though, please get with Britt and I. We help you with that during the eligibility process anyway, but we're happy to answer those.
Yeah, for sure. So after you submit that achievement report, we build a team of 6 examiners to assess the achievement packet. This packet includes the application, the profile sheet, the org chart, the insight link, and then your achievement report with those results. All the examiners that are going to be on the team are confirmed through the applicant to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. After the examiners are confirmed, we send out the contact information for the examining team to the applicant, and then the applicant will provide the achievement packet to each one of those examiners. We do it this way so the applicant is in control of their own information. Sean, do you want to talk more about industry experience, key systems, and behaviors?
Yeah, I'll do it real briefly because I know we're short on time. But a question that always comes to Britt and I is, we need examiners that are familiar with our industry and our product, and that. And the truth is that those are mostly competitors of anybody's, right? And we are very, very careful with this process about not having conflicts of interest, not having competitors. And so we have a very defined process for picking examiners. But the other thing to think about is the product is less important than the systems that you have in place. Remember, we're looking at people's behaviors that are driving the measures that you have. Problem solving looks much the same in a hospital as it does on an oil platform, as it does in a real estate office, as it does almost anywhere. It's the same types of behaviors. You may have different tools that you use. That's very true, right? But the behaviors are what we're looking for. How are we solving those? How are we driving those measures? What are we focused on? So whether a examiner has experience in that industry or not, what's most important is that they have experience with organizational excellence, and they have experience with the Shingo model and how we look at behaviors. And that's what we really build the team around.
Yeah. So the last part of our APA is the leadership review, where our examiners will meet with leadership and clarify any questions that they have, and that will help them decide if you qualify for a site visit or not. If you do qualify for a site visit, we usually ask for days that are 45 to 60 days out. Sometimes that will go longer depending where you are located, and we may have to get visas, other things about site visit logistics there. But if you are granted a site visit, we will ask that. If you are not granted a site visit, then you will get a detailed feedback report that goes into the decision of the examiners of why you did not receive that site visit. And we just want to make sure that if an organization does not receive a site visit, we encourage you to re-challenge. We advise that you usually wait about 2 years to challenge, and that will kind of help you use that feedback from the examiners and be able to re-challenge for the Shingo prize. At the end of that site visit, or excuse me, at the end of that, we'll have a site visit, and we usually have 4 to 10 examiners, depending on how many employees you have, what your site looks like, different things like that. And I'll kind of turn over the time to Sean to kind of go over the details of that site visit.
Yeah, and we can confirm all of these types of things with you actually during the eligibility process, and will do so. One brief thing I wanted to bring up, because during this process, by the time you get to site visit, the examination team has talked to leadership in a leadership review, and there in most organizations are much fewer leaders than there are team members. So where do you think the examiners are going to spend most of their time? It's talking and with those team members and asking them questions. Again, all of these types of questions, all of these types of experiences are built into these workshops. We actually take you to the Gemba so you can see how examiners ask questions, how they design those questions, what systems they're looking for, and what behaviors they're specifically looking for. So keep that in mind, that's where a lot of the time is spent. You will build a agenda, the team lead will, with some help from the organization, so that all areas are covered and specific timing is known. But they really want to talk to the folks that are doing the work down there on the shop floors, or out in the field, depending on what type of industry you're in, and that's where they'll spend the bulk of their time on these visits.
Yeah, so the site visit is normally around 3 days. There's some cases that we go to 4 days, but average time is about 3 days for that site visit. The results of the site visit are either no award, a Shingo bronze medallion, a Shingo silver medallion, or the Shingo prize. And you can find more details in the guidelines about each one of these, becoming a recipient of each one of these levels. After, hopefully, you receive the award, you will submit a PR packet to us. And we will go through, we'll ask for photos, videos, testimonials, and other marketing materials to kind of help us put your name out there and celebrate this great accomplishment of becoming a Shingo Prize recipient. Some of the ways that we publicly announce the award status: we do press releases, social media, Shingo newsletters. The funnest thing for us is to recognize you at our annual Shingo Conference and Awards Gala. We put you on our Shingo website. A Shingo Prize recipient is on our website for 5 years, and silver and bronze are on our website for 3 years. Your name will also be put into the Shingo model booklet that goes out and on the slides of all of our Shingo workshops. And we also have some other opportunities, and Sean can talk about those ones quickly.
Yeah, and these are really important, because it's about the next question becomes, how do we sustain our momentum? Right? How do we keep that going after we perhaps become a recipient? How do we move to the next level? Or if we become a Shingo recipient, now what? Well, I can tell you some of the things that have been really successful for organizations, and that's with having their folks available to speak at conferences, because it keeps it fresh on their mind. It keeps them involved and deeply engaged with the transformation that has happened and where it's going. Providing tours for groups to come through your organization keeps people sharp. It keeps them able to answer questions. It gives you feedback if you ask for it on what people are seeing as they tour your organization. There's opportunities to have workshops at your organization where then they go out on the Gemba experience that I talked about. That's done at hosting organizations. Again, feedback, always benchmarking things. We may ask for opportunities to be able to provide your organization with some research opportunities. Those are out there, and we're getting more and more of those opportunities available, and organizations celebrating at their facility. Remember, the whole team has achieved whatever level you achieve, and recognition is always best when it's appropriate and it's timely. So right after these types of things happen are the best time to be able to recognize them. So, and we can talk more about all of that. We go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, we're good. We will go ahead and move to Q&A. We know we've gone a little bit over, so we'll go ahead and move to Q&A and answer some of these. Unless, Mary, would you like us to do that and mail them out to everyone?
Well,
I'll just take this one, if you don't mind, Brett. It asked about, I talked about the version of the achievement report that's coming out. We're currently solidifying that with our examiner committee, and then we're going to pilot that. So it'll probably be toward the end of this year, but we'd really like to get that out quickly because it very much focuses on the key systems that we're looking for. We think it'll make it easier for challenging organizations, or even those that aren't challenging, to be able to really go to the next step. So we're working as fast as we can on that to get that out. But it will significantly change the achievement report process.
awesome, great. We do have several questions in the chat. I'm okay if we stay on for a little bit longer. We can record those. If you have to leave, we can send out the recording afterward if you would like to do that. So one of the questions that's in here and then we get asked often is, what's the difference between the Shingo Prize and Baldrige? Sean, do you want to just comment on that quickly?
Actually, for that one, I would prefer to send you out articles, because that's a long conversation for the most part. But there are articles out there now that specifically address that. So hopefully we have their email in the chat, Mary.
We do.
If we do, we'll send you out some articles, because I think that'll give you a much better depth of understanding than me trying to cover it in just a few minutes. But there are some really good articles now that break that down. So
great, thank you. The other question that was asked is, how long is the Shingo Prize valid once earned?
Good question. You know, the way we look at it is we advertise, and we'll keep it up on our website for 3 years, I think, or sorry, 5 years for the Shingo Prize, 3 years for bronze and silver medallion. But you always have received it, right? It's not something that ever gets taken away, so to speak. It is important, we feel, and the most important thing is, how do we sustain that? And by sustaining, we mean, how do we keep getting better? How do we keep moving on? And these were the opportunities that I talked about on a previous slide. Is we have to open our doors, and we have to make sure that we have other folks other than just us looking at our organization to make sure that happens, right? But we stop advertising after 5 years. That's true, because we only keep the most current ones on there. We do keep you on the list forever. It stays on our list, and you will always have been a recipient of whatever the level of recognition is that you achieve. But we're here to make your journey better every single year, and that's what we want to focus on. You know, we'll continue building tools to do that, and we'll continue trying to support you in that effort. But it's a great question, right? I think every organization desires that if once they've achieved a level that they want to get better from that level moving forward, I think that's always the intent. In my heart, I know that's true, that's what organizations want to do, and that they would be so proud if somebody could come in 10 years later and go, oh my goodness, this has gotten even better than I ever thought it was.
One thing I just
Right.
want to add to that as well is we have a company that received the Shingo Prize in 1999, and they have continually hosted workshops and tours at their facility often. And they have said that the success to them improving is because they allow other people to come in and benchmark and for them to get that feedback to improve. So we cannot stress how more important it is for you to be able to open your doors and to share and learn from others as well. So we have several other questions, but we are way out of time. So we will make sure to follow up directly with each of you. And thank you again for attending today. And Sean, Brittany, thank you so much for presenting. I'll also send out the presentation to you. The video will be available on our YouTube channel, and I'll make sure that you have Sean and Brittany's contact information. So if you have specific questions, you can reach out directly to them. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Look forward to talking to each of you.